Overcoming fear, the discipline and mindset to live a life of courage and purpose. Ever felt that icy grip of hesitation? That internal alarm screaming "not yet," even when a part of you desperately yearns to move forward? You're not alone. In fact, that feeling, that primal resistance we call fear, is a universal human experience. But here's the unsettling truth that often goes unspoken. Fear itself isn't the villain in your story. The real thief of dreams, the silent saboteur of potential, is inaction. Think about it for a moment. How many brilliant ideas have faded into the background noise of what-ifs? How many opportunities have slipped through your fingers because you waited for a mythical moment of perfect courage to descend upon you? That moment rarely comes. We're wired for survival, and fear, in its original design, was a powerful protector, shielding our ancestors from genuine threats. But fast forward to today, and the landscape of our fears has drastically shifted. We're less likely to face a saber-toothed tiger, and more likely to confront the fear of failure, the dread of judgment, or the anxiety of stepping outside our carefully constructed comfort zones. Yet, that ancient alarm system still blares, often misinterpreting a challenging presentation, a bold career move, or even expressing your true feelings as a life-or-death scenario. The result? Paralysis. We stand at the edge of our potential, much like someone frozen on a high dive, while the clock of our lives keeps ticking. Consider this. Fear is a biological response, an instinct ingrained over millennia. It's designed to keep you safe, to make you think twice before leaping into the unknown. But here's the crucial distinction. It's a signal, not a sentence. It's information, not a life directive. Most of the things we fear in our modern lives, starting a business, having a difficult conversation, pursuing a creative passion, won't physically harm us. They might feel uncomfortable, they might carry the risk of disappointment, but they won't jeopardize our survival. Yet, we often grant these fears an authority they don't deserve, allowing them to dictate the trajectory of our lives. How many incredible journeys have been abandoned before they even began, simply because someone waited for the fear to vanish? How many authentic expressions have been stifled by the fear of not being accepted? The cost of inaction, fueled by unchecked fear, is a life half-lived, a tapestry of unrealized potential and unspoken desires. This isn't about becoming fearless. That's a myth perpetuated by adrenaline junkies and action movie heroes. True courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act despite its presence. It's about learning to recognize fear for what it is, a primal warning system that often misfires in our modern context, and choosing to move forward anyway. It's about understanding that the discomfort of confronting your fears is temporary, while the regret of a life unlived can be a lifelong burden. So let's ask ourselves honestly, what is one fear, just one, that you know deep down is holding you back from the life you truly desire? Take a moment to acknowledge it. Naming it is the first crack in its armor. Because in the next few scenes, we're going to delve deep into understanding this powerful emotion and, more importantly, how to transform it from a roadblock into a stepping stone toward a life of genuine courage and purpose. Section 1. The biological roots of fear and why it often misleads us. Let's peel back the layers and understand fear at its core. It's not some abstract monster lurking in the shadows of your mind. It's a deeply ingrained biological mechanism designed for survival. Think back to our ancestors navigating a world filled with genuine physical threats, predators, harsh environments, and the constant struggle for resources. In that context, a rapid, instinctual fear response was a matter of life and death. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure in your brain, acts as the body's early warning system, instantly triggering a cascade of physiological changes. The racing heart, the quickened breath, the surge of adrenaline, all designed to prepare you to fight, flee, or freeze in the face of danger. This system is incredibly efficient and has served humanity well for millennia. However, the environment we inhabit today is vastly different. While physical threats still exist, the majority of our fears are now psychological and social. The fear of public speaking isn't going to get you eaten by a lion. The fear of launching your passion project isn't going to expose you to the elements. Yet, the same ancient alarm system kicks in, treating these modern challenges with the same urgency as a genuine life-threatening situation. This is where the disconnect lies. Our brains, in their primal wisdom, haven't quite caught up with the complexities of the 21st century. They still interpret the possibility of social rejection or financial risk as a significant threat to our well-being, triggering the same powerful fear response that once protected us from immediate physical harm. Consider the example of someone who dreams of starting their own business. The idea sparks excitement, a vision of independence and fulfillment. But then, the fear creeps in, the fear of failure, the fear of financial insecurity, the fear of what others might think. These aren't tangible threats in the same way a predator is, but the amygdala can't always distinguish the difference. It registers the uncertainty, the potential for loss as a danger signal, flooding the system with stress hormones and creating a powerful urge to retreat to the safety of the familiar, even if that familiar is unfulfilling. This is why so many promising ventures never see the light of day, why so many innovative ideas remain just thoughts in someone's mind. The biological impulse to avoid perceived danger, even when that danger is largely psychological, overrides the desire for growth and achievement. But here's the empowering realization. Understanding the biological roots of fear allows us to create a crucial separation between the feeling and the reality, recognizing that the racing heart and sweaty palms are simply an ancient survival mechanism kicking in, often inappropriately in our modern context, gives us a degree of control. It allows us to observe the fear without immediately succumbing to its dictates. Think of it like this. The alarm system in your house is designed to alert you to a potential intruder. But if it goes off every time a strong gust of wind rattles the windows, you learn to assess the situation rather than panicking every time. Similarly, by understanding the biological basis of fear, we can begin to interpret its signals more accurately, recognizing when it's a genuine warning and when it's simply an overzealous system reacting to a perceived but not actual threat. This awareness is the first step towards consciously choosing our response, rather than being automatically governed by a primal impulse that often no longer serves our highest aspirations. Section 2. The crippling power of inaction and why movement is the antidote to fear. While fear is a natural human emotion, its true destructive power lies not in its presence, but in the inaction it often breeds. Think of fear as a messenger, sometimes delivering important warnings, but often just creating noise. Inaction, on the other hand, is the decision to heed that noise as a command, to let the potential for discomfort or failure paralyze you into staying exactly where you are, even if that place is stagnant and unfulfilling. It's the moment of pause, the internal debate that stretches into days, weeks, even years, where the what-ifs and the maybe-laters take root and choke the life out of your ambitions. Most people readily point to fear as the reason for their lack of progress. "I'm afraid to start," they say, or "I'm scared of what might happen." And while the initial feeling of fear is undeniable, the real culprit is often the subsequent decision to do nothing. It's the choice to sit and stew in the anxiety, to endlessly analyze potential pitfalls, rather than taking even a small step forward. Imagine someone who dreams of writing a book. The fear of not being good enough, of facing rejection, is real. But the inaction is the decision to never sit down and write that first page, to let the fear become a permanent barrier instead of an initial hurdle to overcome. Consider the analogy of a car's engine light. Fear is like that light. It signals that something might need attention. But inaction is like parking the car in the driveway and waiting for the light to magically turn off without ever looking under the hood. The problem doesn't resolve itself. In fact, it often gets worse with time. The longer you remain inactive, the more the fear can solidify its grip, building elaborate narratives of potential disaster and reinforcing the belief that staying put is the safest option. This creates a vicious cycle where fear leads to inaction, and inaction, in turn, amplifies the fear, making it even harder to break free. We often fall into the trap of believing that we need to feel completely unafraid before we can act. We wait for a surge of courage to spontaneously appear, a moment of absolute certainty that will propel us forward effortlessly. But this is a fallacy. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to act in its presence. It's about understanding that the feeling of fear might always be there to some degree, especially when you're stepping into unfamiliar territory or pursuing something truly meaningful. The key is to not let that feeling dictate your behavior. Think of the countless stories of successful individuals who faced significant fear and uncertainty but chose to act anyway. The entrepreneur who launched their business despite the risk of financial ruin, the artist who shared their work despite the fear of criticism, the individual who spoke their truth despite the potential for social backlash. Their common thread wasn't a lack of fear, but a refusal to let that fear dictate their actions. They understood that the only way to diminish fear's power was to move through it, to take those initial, often shaky steps that build momentum and prove to yourself that you are capable of more than your fear would have you believe. Inaction allows fear to move in, unpack its bags, and redecorate your life with limitations. The antidote? To kill fear with movement, to disrupt its hold by choosing action, however small, over paralysis. Section 3. The power of momentum in dissolving fear's grip. Fear thrives in stillness, in the echo chamber of your mind where worries can amplify and multiply unchecked. It's like a shadow that stretches and distorts in the absence of light. But the moment you introduce movement, the moment you take action, even a seemingly insignificant step, you begin to shine a light on that shadow, causing it to shrink and lose its menacing form. Momentum is the silent killer of fear. It disrupts the cycle of anxiety and replaces it with a sense of progress and capability. Consider the simple act of starting a new exercise routine. The initial fear of discomfort, of not being fit enough, can be daunting. But once you lace up your shoes and complete that first workout, a shift begins to occur. The fear doesn't vanish entirely, but it loses some of its power. The act of moving, of taking that initial step, creates a small sense of accomplishment, a tangible piece of evidence that you are capable of overcoming inertia. And with each subsequent workout, that momentum builds, gradually eroding the initial fear and replacing it with a sense of strength and confidence. This principle applies to virtually any area of life where fear holds you back. Whether it's starting a creative project, learning a new skill, or tackling a challenging conversation, the initial resistance is often the strongest. But once you break through that initial barrier and begin to move forward, even in small increments, the fear starts to lose its grip. As the saying goes, don't analyze, don't negotiate, just move. There's a profound truth in this. Overthinking and endless planning can often be a form of procrastination fueled by fear. The act of simply starting, of taking that first tangible step, bypasses the analytical mind and engages a different part of you, the part that experiences the positive feedback of progress. Science backs this up. Repetition rewires the brain. Every courageous step you take, no matter how small, forms new neural pathways, strengthening the connection between action and positive outcomes. Conversely, inaction reinforces the neural pathways associated with fear and avoidance. Think of it like forging a new path through a dense forest. The first few steps might be difficult, requiring effort and determination. But with each subsequent pass, the path becomes clearer, easier to navigate. Similarly, with each act of courage, you are literally making it easier for yourself to act courageously in the future. Fear, which once seemed like an insurmountable wall, begins to feel more like a manageable hurdle. What's your momentum move? What's that one small action you can take right now in the face of a fear that's holding you back? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It could be sending that email, making that phone call, outlining that first chapter, or simply doing a quick Google search to gather information. The key is to break the stillness, to introduce movement into the equation. Because once you start moving, even slowly, the inertia of fear begins to dissipate, and the positive feedback of progress fuels further action, creating a powerful upward spiral of courage and accomplishment. Section 4. Unmasking fear as a master storyteller and learning to question its narratives. Fear isn't just a feeling, it's a masterful storyteller. It doesn't just whisper anxieties, it writes elaborate, convincing narratives in your own voice, using your deepest insecurities and past experiences as fuel. It scripts entire scenarios of potential failure, rejection, and humiliation, often so vividly that they feel like future certainties rather than mere possibilities. This is one of fear's most insidious tactics. to hijack your imagination and turn it against you, creating a prison of what-ifs and you can'ts. Think about the last time you hesitated to pursue something you truly wanted. What were the voices in your head saying? Chances are they weren't objective assessments of risk. They were personalized fear narratives. You're not good enough. You'll just fail like you did before. Who do you think you are to even try? These stories often feel incredibly real because they tap into our deepest vulnerabilities and anxieties. Fear is a skilled manipulator, using familiar doubts and past disappointments to build seemingly logical arguments for staying safe within our comfort zones. Consider someone who dreams of speaking publicly. Their fear might weave a detailed story of stumbling over words, forgetting their points, and facing a room full of judgment and ridicule. This narrative, though entirely imagined, can feel so real and so terrifying that it prevents them from ever stepping onto a stage. The fear has successfully used their own imagination to create a powerful deterrent. The crucial step in overcoming this is to recognize these fear-based thoughts for what they are: stories, not facts. Just because a thought pops into your head doesn't mean it's true. Fear often masquerades as wisdom, cloaking its anxieties in the guise of practicality and caution. But beneath the surface, it's often just a collection of worst-case scenarios and self-limiting beliefs. The powerful counter-strategy is to learn to question these narratives. When a fear-based thought arises, ask yourself, says who? And what else could be true? Challenge the assumptions underlying the story. Is there any concrete evidence to support the catastrophic outcome your fear is predicting? Or is it based on past insecurities or imagined possibilities? Often, you'll find that the evidence is weak, and there are many other, more positive or neutral, possibilities that your fear is conveniently ignoring. This requires a conscious shift in mindset. We often treat our thoughts as absolute truths, especially when they are accompanied by strong emotions like fear. But learning to observe your thoughts with a degree of detachment, to recognize them as mental events rather than unwavering realities, gives you the power to choose which narratives you engage with. Familiarity doesn't equal truth. Comfort doesn't equal truth. Just because a fear-based thought feels familiar and comfortable doesn't mean it's an accurate reflection of reality or a helpful guide for your actions. By learning to identify fear's storytelling tactics and actively questioning its narratives, you begin to dismantle its power and reclaim your imagination as a tool for possibility rather than paralysis. Section 5. Rewriting the script with daily discipline. Building the habit of courage. While moments of intense bravery can be inspiring, true, lasting courage isn't a fleeting emotion. It's a muscle that needs to be trained and strengthened through consistent daily practice. Motivation can provide the initial spark, that burst of enthusiasm that gets you started. But discipline is the steady flame that keeps you going, especially when fear resurfaces or when the initial excitement fades. Real courage isn't about waiting to feel brave. It's about cultivating habits that chip away at fear and build your capacity for bold action, one small step at a time. Think of it like physical fitness. You don't become strong by waiting for a sudden surge of motivation to hit the gym for an epic workout once a year. You build strength through consistent daily or weekly effort, showing up even when you don't feel like it, pushing yourself just a little bit further each time. Similarly, building a courageous mindset requires the consistent practice of small acts that push you outside your comfort zone and reinforce the belief in your ability to handle discomfort and uncertainty. This is where the power of daily rituals comes in. These seemingly small, consistent actions can have a profound impact on your overall mindset and your ability to face fear. Consider incorporating these courage-building habits into your daily routine. Make your bed. This might seem trivial, but it's a small victory first thing in the morning. It's an act of taking control and accomplishing something, setting a positive tone for the day, and reinforcing the idea that you can take action and achieve results. It's about winning the first battle of the day against inertia. Speak affirmations. Consciously training your mind with positive self-talk can counteract the negative narratives of fear. Regularly stating affirmations like, "I am capable," "I am resilient," or I embrace challenges can gradually rewire your thought patterns and build a stronger sense of self-efficacy. It's about training your inner voice to be an ally rather than an adversary. Move your body. Physical activity has a powerful impact on both your physical and mental well-being. It helps to release stress hormones, improve mood, and build a sense of energy and vitality. Even a short walk or a quick workout can shake off the stagnation that fear often breeds and create a feeling of empowerment. Do one uncomfortable thing. This is where the real courage muscle gets its workout. It doesn't have to be a monumental task. It could be making that slightly awkward phone call, striking up a conversation with a stranger, or taking a small step towards a long-term goal that feels a little scary. The key is to regularly engaging with a new idea. Each time you intentionally step outside your comfort zone, you send a powerful message to your brain. I can handle discomfort. I can navigate uncertainty. I am capable of growth. Imagine a morning routine that incorporates these elements. You wake up, make your bed, immediately achieving a small win. You then spend a few minutes speaking positive affirmations, priming your mind for resilience. You engage in some form of physical activity, energizing your body and clearing your mind. And then, you intentionally do one small thing that feels slightly uncomfortable, perhaps sending an email you've been putting off or having a brief conversation with someone new. Individually, these actions might seem insignificant, but cumulatively, over time, they build a powerful foundation of courage and resilience. They rewrite your internal script, replacing the narrative of fear and avoidance with one of action and capability. This isn't about becoming fearless overnight. It's about the consistent, daily commitment to pushing your boundaries, even in small ways. It's about recognizing that courage isn't a sudden arrival. It's a gradual accumulation of small victories over fear. By making these courage-building habits a non-negotiable part of your daily routine, you transform courage from a rare and elusive emotion into a reliable and accessible tool that empowers you to live a bolder, more purposeful life. Section 6. Fear as a compass, not a stop sign. Learning to interpret its signals. What if we fundamentally shifted our perspective on fear? What if, instead of viewing it as a red light, a signal to stop and retreat, we began to see it as a compass, pointing us toward the very things that hold the greatest potential for growth and fulfillment in our lives? This isn't about recklessly chasing danger, but about learning to discern the subtle nuances of fear and understanding that sometimes the things that scare us the most are precisely the experiences that will stretch us, challenge us, and ultimately lead to our greatest expansion. Think about the feeling you get when you consider pursuing a long-held dream, something that truly excites you but also carries a significant degree of uncertainty. There's often a knot of anxiety in your stomach, a flurry of what-if questions that flood your mind. Our natural inclination is to interpret this feeling as a warning sign, a signal that we should probably stay away from this potentially risky endeavor. But what if that feeling isn't a stop sign, but rather an arrow pointing directly to the edge of your comfort zone, the very boundary where true growth and transformation occur? Consider the analogy of a compass. A compass doesn't point you toward the easiest path. It points you toward magnetic north, a direction that might require you to navigate challenging terrain. Similarly, the things that truly resonate with our deepest desires and our sense of purpose often lie just beyond the boundaries of our current comfort zone, and the fear we feel is simply an indication that we are approaching that edge. Think of someone who deeply desires to start their own business but is paralyzed by the fear of failure and financial insecurity. That fear is real, but it's also pointing them toward a path of greater autonomy, creativity, and potential impact. The fear isn't telling them to abandon their dream. It's highlighting the areas where they need to develop skills, build resilience, and plan strategically. It's an invitation to step into the unknown, to learn and grow in the process. The key is to learn to differentiate between the fear that signals genuine danger, a truly unsafe situation, and the fear that arises from the anticipation of discomfort or the possibility of failure, which is often a prerequisite for growth. One way to do this is to ask yourself, what is the underlying desire driving this fear? Often, you'll find a deep yearning for something meaningful on the other side of that fear. When your heart races at the thought of pursuing a new opportunity, when you feel that familiar flutter of anxiety, instead of immediately retreating, try leaning in. Ask yourself, what is the potential reward on the other side of this fear? What could I learn about myself and the world if I were to face this challenge? Often, the answer will reveal that the fear isn't a barrier, but a gateway to a more expansive and fulfilling life. That edge of discomfort is often where your next level of growth, your next significant achievement resides. Learn to recognize fear not as an enemy to be avoided, but as a compass guiding you toward your untapped potential. Section 7. Your mind is the battlefield. Training your inner landscape for courage. Ultimately, the battle against fear is fought not in the external world, but within the confines of your own mind. Fear doesn't originate in the challenges you face. It arises from your thoughts and interpretations of those challenges. If you don't actively train your mind to respond to fear in a constructive way, it will default to its primal programming, often leading to avoidance and inaction. Just like any other muscle, your mind needs consistent training to develop resilience, courage, and a positive outlook in the face of uncertainty. One of the most effective frameworks for training your mind to overcome fear involves a 3-step process. Observe, interrupt, and replace. First, observe the fear. Become aware of the thoughts and feelings that arise when you encounter a situation that triggers anxiety. Don't judge them or try to suppress them. Simply acknowledge their presence. Notice the physical sensations, the mental chatter, and the emotional undercurrents. This act of detached observation creates a space between you and your fear, allowing you to see it more objectively rather than being swept away by it. Second, interrupt the lie. Once you've observed the fear, examine the underlying thoughts. Are they based on facts or assumptions? Are they realistic appraisals of the situation or exaggerated worst-case scenarios? Challenge the negative narratives that your fear is trying to sell you. Ask yourself the questions we discussed earlier. Says who? And what else could be true? Often you'll find that the fear is based on flimsy evidence or outdated beliefs. Interrupt the cycle of negative thinking by consciously questioning its validity. Third, replace it with truth. Once you've identified and challenged the fear-based lies, actively replace them with more positive, realistic, and empowering thoughts. This requires conscious effort and repetition. If your fear is telling you you're going to fail, replace it with, I am capable of learning and growing, and even if things don't go perfectly, I will handle it. If your fear is whispering they'll judge you, replace it with, my worth is not determined by the opinions of others, and I choose to express myself authentically. This process of observing, interrupting, and replacing negative thoughts with positive affirmations is like reprogramming your mental software, gradually building a more courageous and resilient inner landscape. Visualization is another powerful tool for mental training. Just as athletes visualize successful performances to enhance their physical abilities, you can use visualization to prepare yourself for challenging situations and to build a sense of confidence. Imagine yourself facing your fears with courage and confidence. Visualize positive outcomes and focus on the feeling of empowerment and accomplishment. This mental rehearsal can help to desensitize you to the fear and build a stronger belief in your ability to succeed. The key is consistency. Just like physical training requires regular effort, mental training needs to be an ongoing practice. By consciously observing your fears, actively challenging their validity, and consistently replacing negative thoughts with positive affirmations and visualizations, you gradually rewire your brain to respond to challenges with greater courage and resilience. Your mind is the ultimate battlefield, and with consistent training, you can become the master of your inner landscape, choosing courage over fear. Section 8. Exposure destroys fear. The power of leaning into discomfort. Fear, like a creature of the shadows, thrives in avoidance. The more you try to sidestep the things that scare you, the more power those fears tend to accumulate. They grow in the darkness of the unknown, fueled by your imagination and the lack of real-world experience to challenge their narratives. The most potent weapon against fear is exposure, intentionally and gradually leaning into the very situations that make you uncomfortable. This isn't about throwing yourself headfirst into your biggest fears without preparation, but about taking small, manageable steps that chip away at their power over you. Think about someone with a fear of public speaking. Avoiding speaking opportunities might provide temporary relief, but it also allows the fear to fester and grow. However, if they start by speaking in small, safe environments, perhaps to friends or family, and gradually work their way up to larger audiences, they begin to desensitize themselves to the anxiety. Each successful exposure, each time they speak and realize that the feared catastrophe doesn't occur, weakens the grip of the fear. This principle of exposure therapy is a well-established psychological technique for overcoming phobias and anxieties. It works by gradually confronting the feared stimulus in a controlled and systematic way, allowing the brain to learn that the feared outcome is unlikely or not as threatening as initially perceived. The same principle can be applied to a wide range of fears in our daily lives. Do you fear putting your creative work out into the world? Start by sharing it with a small, trusted group. Fearful of networking? Commit to having one meaningful conversation at the next event you attend. Afraid of having a difficult conversation? Practice what you want to say beforehand, and then take the plunge. Each time you expose yourself to the thing you fear and navigate it successfully, you build confidence and weaken the power of that fear. Consider the power quote. You don't kill fear with avoidance. You kill it with exposure. Avoidance provides only temporary relief and often reinforces the fear in the long run. Exposure, while initially uncomfortable, provides lasting freedom. It's about actively seeking out opportunities to step outside your comfort zone, even in small ways. Think about the things you currently avoid because of fear. What's one small, manageable action you could take today to gently expose yourself to that fear? It might feel uncomfortable, your voice might shake, your palms might sweat, but on the other side of that discomfort lies growth and empowerment. Each act of courageous exposure is like shining a light on the shadows of your fear, causing them to recede and lose their power. By consistently leaning into discomfort, you reclaim your power and build a life defined by courage rather than avoidance. Section 9. What's at stake? Your legacy. Choosing purpose over fear's limitations. This journey of overcoming fear isn't just about navigating daily anxieties or achieving small personal victories. It's about something much larger, something that extends beyond your immediate comfort and into the realm of your lasting impact. Your legacy. What kind of story will your life tell when you're gone? Will it be a tale of potential left unfulfilled, of dreams deferred by the silent tyranny of fear? Or will it be a powerful narrative of courage, purpose, and a life lived to its fullest potential? Imagine two individuals navigating their lives. One plays it safe, consistently choosing the comfortable and familiar, avoiding any situation that might trigger fear or uncertainty. They build a predictable life, perhaps achieving a degree of security, but their potential remains largely untapped. Their story in the end might be one of quiet contentment, but also one tinged with the unspoken regrets of what if. The other individual, while also experiencing fear, chooses a different path. They learn to recognize fear as a signal, not a stop sign. They cultivate the discipline of courage, consistently stepping outside their comfort zone in pursuit of their purpose and passions. They face setbacks and disappointments, but they learn and grow from them. Their story becomes one of resilience, of bold action, and of a life that leaves a lasting impact on the world. 30 years down the line, the difference between these two stories can be profound. One whispers regrets about the roads not taken, the dreams not pursued. The other roars with the echoes of a life lived with intention and courage. Fear steals dreams in silence, one moment of hesitation at a time. Purpose, on the other hand, roars with the action you take, the risks you embrace, and the impact you create. The choice, ultimately, is yours. Will your life be defined by the limitations imposed by your fears or by the boundless possibilities that lie on the other side of courage? Will you allow the fear of failure to prevent you from even trying? Will you let the fear of judgment silence your unique voice and your valuable contributions? The stakes are high. They encompass not just your personal fulfillment, but the very essence of your life's story, the legacy you leave behind. So ask yourself honestly, Are you ready to stop letting fear lead? Are you ready to choose purpose over paralysis, action over anxiety? If the answer is a resounding yes, then commit to this journey of courage. Commit to understanding your fears, challenging their narratives, and consistently taking action in spite of them. The world needs your unique talents, your bold ideas, and your courageous spirit. Don't let fear rob you, and the world, of the incredible potential that lies within you. Section 10. Conclusion. We've journeyed through the landscape of fear, understanding its biological roots, its paralyzing power of inaction, and the transformative potential of momentum. We've unmasked its deceptive storytelling and explored the discipline required to rewrite our internal scripts with courage. We've learned to see fear not just as a threat, but sometimes as a compass pointing us toward growth. And we've emphasized the crucial role of training our minds and confronting our fears through deliberate exposure. The key takeaway is this: fear is a part of the human experience, but it doesn't have to be the defining force in your life. You have the power to choose your response. You have the capacity to cultivate courage, not as a magical antidote to fear, but as a learned skill, a muscle that grows stronger with each intentional act. Remember, inaction is the real enemy. Momentum is your ally. Your mind is a powerful tool that can be trained for resilience. Fear often lies, and exposure diminishes its power. And ultimately, the life you build, the legacy you leave, will be determined by whether you allow fear to dictate your path, or whether you choose to lead with purpose and courage. If you've resonated with this message and you're ready to take control, to stop letting fear call the shots in your life, then take a moment right now and declare your commitment. In the comments below, write, "I choose courage." If you're done letting fear lead and you're ready to step into a life of greater purpose and bold action, let's build a community of individuals who are committed to overcoming their limitations and living life to the fullest. And if you found value in these insights and you're serious about cultivating a fearless, purpose-driven life, then make sure to like this video. It helps us reach more people who need this message. Subscribe to our channel for more content designed to empower you on your journey of personal growth and development. We're building a community of warriors, not worriers, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of courage. Remember, the fearless aren't born, they're built, one courageous action at a time. Now go out there and choose courage, choose purpose, and choose to live the life you were truly meant to live. I appreciate you watching. Be sure to catch the next episode where we'll go further into unlocking your true greatness.